every generation loves to give the kids that come after them a hard time. Socrates was famous for calling the youth lazy, disrespectful, and decadent, founding a tradition that continues to this very day. In fairness, these criticisms can carry a degree of truth, though elders making them rarely take ownership over creating the environment which led to the spiritual and cultural degradation that they're complaining about. While Generation Z, or the Zoomers, have an attitude that can feel alien to their predecessors, they also face a unique set of challenges that their elders have a hard time conceiving of, much less addressing. The nature of identity, spirituality, family, and economics have shifted under the feet of the Zoomers, and it's time for the right to lead its younger generation rather than disparaging them. It should be said from the outset that I am not myself a Zoomer. I was born just a few years into the millennial generation, while Gen Z ranges from ages 13 to 28. But many of the problems that plague the Zoomers have an origin that predates them. The most common response given to young people complaining about their employment opportunities and financial future is to just work harder and pull themselves up by their bootstraps. For the individual, there's some value in this advice. No matter how terrible your circumstances, the only thing that you can personally control is your own effort and attitude. But at a societal level, this is a disastrous stance. As a nation, we have a duty to create an environment where young people can be successful, build a family, and invest in a brighter future for their own children. When baby boomers were coming of age, America was flush with opportunity. Most jobs didn't require a college degree, and a store manager could expect to afford a home and take care of a family on one salary. Grandparents still fondly tell stories about how they could pay for their college education by just working a part-time job and maybe picking up some extra shifts in the summer. Starter homes existed in decent neighborhoods and cost less than 1 year of tuition at many universities in the modern day. Most importantly, the majority of children came from intact families that modeled a degree of normalcy and had parents that felt an obligation to pass wealth and opportunity down to their children. At 14 years old, I rode my bicycle to work for my first job at the neighborhood subway. I strongly believe that participating in menial jobs as a teenager is a great rite of passage which teaches you to connect with the average person and stay humble. But most of the employees were high school kids, and every manager or assistant manager was an adult without much of a sense of ambition. No one was paying for college, much less buying a home or supporting a family just by making sandwiches. Today, many entry-level positions that would grant much-needed job experience are filled by illegal immigrants who will work for less and aren't subject to the same labor restrictions. Zoomers are told that college is the gateway to a middle-class life, but the white males among them quickly find that the doors of higher education are closed because they don't meet the necessary diversity requirements. Those that make it into university then pay an exorbitant tuition that totals over the down payment for a home just to get the same accounting job that their parents received after working an apprenticeship. Once they graduate, those same workers are then informed that any jobs which haven't been shipped overseas are being granted to foreign labor brought in to compete with them on an H-1B visa. For the Zoomer, the reality of dating and marriage is even more bleak. Gen Z comes from increasingly broken homes with little positive relationship behavior to model. The church, one of the most critical social institutions for moral instruction, meeting a quality spouse, and guiding individuals through the difficult moments in a marriage, has been abandoned. Young people are left to resort to dating apps, which are personally degrading and offer a very low margin of relationship success. Young women, facing a large amount of debt, which they accumulated in college to get a job, can't rely on their husband's income to sustain their household and are therefore hesitant to start a family. The American dream was always about becoming middle class, or what the French called bourgeois. Middle class status was not just about achieving some arbitrary salary number, but about independence. Wage workers, or the proletariat, were reliant on their employers for their day-to-day existence. They were usually renters, unable to achieve any level of stability, always anxiously waiting for the next check to come in. The aspiration to become middle class was the aspiration to free yourself and your children from dependence on the system. A middle-class family owned their own home, their own car, and very often their own business. The excess capital accumulated allowed the middle-class family to invest, save for retirement, and grant new opportunities to their children. Civic organizations, fraternities, guilds, clubs, and churches created a web of social institutions that allowed the government to stay small while communities flourished. The leisure time and excess capital of the middle class allowed for the creation and maintenance of these institutions, which freed generations of Americans from dependence on corporations and the government. Today, the American middle class has been proletarianized. Home mortgages have expanded from 15 to 30 years, and that's just for those lucky enough to participate in a market where costs continue to skyrocket. Car loans have been increased in duration, while many are choosing just to lease instead of owning the vehicle at all. Healthcare, education, housing, and food have all experienced runaway inflation while wages have stagnated in comparison. 2 college-educated parents often need to work long hours at jobs where they compete with foreign labor just to afford a home and a child or two, leaving those young ones to be cared for by strangers and educated by the state. For most workers, the middle class just means the ability to afford both Netflix and Hulu, not a road to prosperity and independence. Zoomers are not uniquely entitled or lazy, but they were born into a culture that hollowed out many of its key social institutions to increase abstract measures of economic success like GDP. Many of the generations preceding the Zoomers forgot that economic growth doesn't exist for its own sake, but to better the life of the people who achieve it. If you destroy faith, family, and community in the process of manufacturing inflated quarterly earnings reports, you can't be surprised when the next generation is cynical about their ability to enter the world and succeed. Now, to be clear, none of this lets Zoomers off the hook. They're still ultimately responsible for their own decisions, but conservatives should be looking to encourage young adults, not mock them. Opportunity still exists, but both illegal and legal immigration need to be drastically reduced to ensure that American citizens are the ones gaining access. The college stranglehold on credentials needs to be abolished, and DEI requirements in education and employment need to be punished with the strictest legal severity. Conservatives who claim to care about family values need to help to cultivate the community institutions that make families possible and mentor young leaders. Offer the next generation a future that they can be proud of, rather than mocking them for the world that they currently find themselves in. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, now is a great time to do so. If you'd like to get these broadcasts as podcasts, make sure to subscribe to the Auron MacIntyre Show on your favorite podcast platform, and when you do, leave your rating or review. It really helps with the algorithm magic. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter or Gab or Substack, if you'd like to watch these videos on Rumble or Odyssey, the links to do all of that are down below in the description. And if you'd like to listen to my new book, The Total State, on audiobook, it's finally out in that format so you can pick it up. We also have merch in the Blaze merch store to support the show, so you can go to shopblazemedia.com, click on the Auron MacIntyre Show, and pick something up there. Thank you everybody for watching, and as always, I'll talk to you next time.